Hi, this is What's New Today, a podcast about current events. But this particular episode that we are doing is a book review. It's a book review of The Black Beauty, a classic that was published many moons ago. It's become a huge favorite among children over the last century and a half. And this is Sangeeta, your host from India. As ever, this is an audio only podcast. And I'm joined by a whole bunch of very happy and curious readers and bookworms who've enjoyed reading this book, who've joined me about 3-4 weeks ago, and they started reading the book alongside me. And they've done a few book review activities too. And finally, at the end of this, we've all come together to share our ideas and thoughts on what the book means to us. So without delaying any further, let's first hear who our young bookworms and book readers of and book reviewers of Black Beauty are today.
Hi, I'm Nayra. I'm 10 years old and I live in Mumbai.
Hi, I'm Prakriti and I'm 10 years old. I live in Mumbai.
Hello, I'm Pravit. I'm 10 years old and I live in Mumbai.
Hello, I'm Rishi and I'm 10 years old. I live in Mumbai.
Hi, my name is Rusheel. I'm 9 years old and I live in Mumbai.
Hi, I'm Saatvik. I'm a 10-year-old from Mumbai.
Hi, I am Smyan. I am 10 years old and I live in Mumbai.
Welcome. I didn't realize that almost everyone who's joined me in this month's book review is around 10 years of age. It's a little unusual that you've got a lot of kids populated around that same age. So how did y'all like reading Black Beauty?
It was a fun book to read. It must have taught most people not to torture animals.
Mm-hmm. This book is a little unusual. It's not like the Harry Potters or the Rick Riordans of the world where there's a lot of magic. It portrays the real world where the horses and the carriages and people lived about a century and a half ago. So I don't know if many of you have even read books like this before. Have you read any books that is based on an era that is very different from the kind of lives we live in?
I was reading Treasure Island. They are mostly about pirates.
I've also read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
So how did y'all like reading Black Beauty?
The book Black Beauty is quite interesting and it's quite unusual also because it is a story about how the horse travels from different owners with a different mindset. At the starting, it was in the hands of good caring people like Farmer Gray and the Squire Gordon. But later on, people started being cunning and notorious and they started treating animals, especially horses, very cruelly, like Nicholas Skinner. And the horse had an experience like it was traveling through different dimensions. And also, the narrative style of this story is quite unique because as we saw all the stories, it has a separate narrator. But this time, the main character itself is narrating what had happened with it.
Thank you, Saatvik. That was a very nice gist of what the book is about. So for listeners who've never read this book, so Black Beauty is a story about a horse who's is pretty handsome. He's well-bred horse. He was born in a nice household, and then he's initially owned by very kind masters. But thereafter, he's sold successively to many other owners. Some of them are cruel, some of them are nice. And then he finally ends up with a very kind owner and he recovers. When y'all were reading this book, was there anything that kind of shocked you?
Yeah, there was this one part where it is evening and then they're supposed to cross the bridge with Black Beauty. And that time, before you were just by putting one leg onto the bridge, Black Beauty understands that something is wrong. And I was really shocked and I got to learn something new that animals know what is happening in their surroundings before.
Wow!
I found the part of when John and Black Beauty were returning from one place. They saw one farmer's boy who is trying to make a pony jump over a gate that is too tall for him. After a lot of thrashing given by the boy to the pony just let him fall down, and the boy fell down in the thorns and started crying. And John did not help him. Instead, complained to his father and mother, and the mother, instead of uh, getting angry at him, she was trying to coax him. So that part I felt shocking, that he was mistreating the animal and she did not care about that.
Ma'am, I got shocked at the part where Ginger died. Usually, if someone did bad things to her, she usually like kicked that person or something. But then she suddenly died. I never thought that could happen to Ginger.
You mean you was very shocked by the change in her personality? Because she had earlier been quite aggressive and she would not take it lightly if someone were to ill treat her. But here, towards the end, she kind of gave up and she said, fine, you do whatever you have to. Eventually, I will drop dead. That's about what can happen, right? Yeah, that's true.
Ma'am, when Jerry and Black Beauty were taking a passenger, the passenger was very kind, so he saw one person. There were two fine horses and he was hitting them hard with the whip. So then the passenger went there and noted down the number of the cart and then complained to the head.
So, what surprised you there, or what shocked you about that, Rusheel?
In the story, most of the people are very cruel to Black Beauty, and this man, he was very kind, and then he was close to animals, and also that shocked me very much. He wrote down the number and he complained to the head. That shocked me.
That a passenger can feel so much for an animal and can take proactive steps to actually go complain to the authorities.
Yes, ma'am.
You found that shocking. Okay.
The part which I found shocking is that when John Manley was riding Black Beauty to fetch Dr. White because Mrs. Gordon was really ill. So I was really shocked that a horse can run so fast and such a far distance. Like, I was thinking for that moment that buying sports cars is useless. Let's just buy a horse. It's going so fast and it's traveling such a distance. I was really shocked that moment.
The I think also there's this point that they try to make in this book, that the horse had kind of understood what was going on, that it was imperative that the doctor reach on time. So the horse perhaps galloped way faster than it normally did and put all its life into it, as though it was in its hands to save the mistress of the household. Advik, hi. Everybody's sharing the scene that they were most shocked by. Okay, in the book, The Black Beauty.
The part I also found shocking was like when Nicholas Skinner works like CD Sam and his horses so hard that they die even out of no rest.
You were shocked that people in the late 19th century used to work their horses so hard that the horses used to drop dead. You were shocked by that. Do you want to guess when this book was published?
1970?
No, 1877.
Correct. That's not a guess. I'm guessing Smyan has done his research. This book was published in 1877. Just as a point of comparison, do you know when Enid Blyton's works were published? Y'all have read Famous Five, I'm assuming.
Yes, miss.
Yeah. So you could take a wild guess. Was Enid Blyton's works also published around the same time as Black Beauty? Or was it much later?
No, it was later. Somewhere in like 1910 or something.
I think that the Enid Blyton's works were published later because the features in that book, like a car or a mobile phone which we have now, they are there in that. So I think they're published later.
Ma'am, I think Enid Blyton's work was published after Black Beauty, because one day in interest I just searched when was the first famous five published. So then I found out it was published in I guess 1942.
I think it might be after Black Beauty.
Because very modern things were in that book, and I don't think it was about that era.
I read a line that the famous five were in a car.
All of you are absolutely right. Black Beauty was published way before any of Enid Blyton's works were published. There are many features that you see in a Famous Five or a Secret Seven that you don't see in Black Beauty. And the most stark point is there are cars. So the first cars came, I think, about 15-20 years after Black Beauty was published. So towards the end, very end of the 19th century only, cars became popular. So if you see in the Black Beauty, everybody travels everywhere on
Cabs.
Horse carriages and horses itself.
Yeah, on either horses or horse-drawn carriages, right? That was how they all traveled everywhere.
Almost on their foot.
Or on their foot, yes, absolutely. So I'm guessing they were a little healthier than we were. They obviously didn't have much pollution to worry about in those days. So that brings me to another question about the vocabulary and the kind of words that this book had. Because I'm assuming the writing style of this book was very different from what you may have seen in any other books.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah? Okay. Were you able to understand the words in the Black Beauty? Because they are a little different.
There were some words which I had to search up on Google, but other than that, the language was very easy to understand. Which was also what I didn't understand hitherto. It was like that.
Hitherto. Okay. Yeah, we don't use words like hitherto nowadays. Does anyone know what hitherto means? No? Hitherto means until now. These were words that used to be used in common parlance about 100 plus years ago. But I'm more curious to know if you all were able to follow the vocabulary in terms of, in the context of horses. Did you understand what a cab meant, what a cabbie meant?
Yeah.
I think a cab is something that's been drove by a cabbie.
So today we use the word cab in the context of a taxi. So if you are going on an Uber or an Ola, you try and get a cab for yourself. So a cab in that era was a horse-drawn carriage, and a cabbie. Who's a cabbie?
A cabbie is a person who
Cabbie is the driver of a cab.
Fabulous. Did you all follow words like saddle and rein and?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All.
So how did you understand what was going on? You were able to make that out from the context, or did you go look for pictures? You know, one of the book review activities we did was to match the picture and, the word, so where you had to connect what a stirrup was and what does it look like and things like that.
Yeah.
Did that help you?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It helped a lot while reading the story.
Why do you think the author wrote this book?
She wrote it because her mother was constantly driving horse-drawn carriages and the ill treatment of horses around her.
I think the author wrote the book because it will inspire people to not be cruel to animals. Like, they should be well treated.
Auntie, actually, Anna Sewell had a problem with her ankle. So she had difficulty in walking. So she always used a horse's help to go from one place to another. So then she started liking horses very much, but she had also noticed that some people were very cruel to horses. So on that, she wrote this book. So she wrote this book to create an awareness.
These days, this book is considered for children, but Anna Sewell actually wrote this book for adults to tell them not to treat pets or animals badly, to treat them good.
I think Anna Sewell wrote this book because she did not want anyone to be cruel to horses. She did not want anyone to hate horses because they are too slow. Like Peggy, she had short legs, so she could not go as fast as other horses, but her master still used to whip her.
Honestly, I also think that she has written it to show the importance of kindness towards animals. Like as in the first worksheet, the theme of the story is to show the importance towards animals. So, I think she has written this to tell the world that we should use animals properly, as they also have feelings like humans, and they also need to be treated well.
Yeah, y'all are pretty much bang on. So Anna Sewell, the author, she had some medical condition on account of which she could not walk at a very young age. So she had to go everywhere on a horse-drawn carriage. She was, of course, capable of driving her own carriage. She didn't need help for that. But because she spent so much of her time going from one place to another on a horse-drawn carriage, I think she was able to spend a little more time to observe what was going on with how horses were being treated, what was going on with her own horses, how others treated their horses. She was very deeply moved by the plight of horses in those days. You know, we live in a different era. We have different problems to contend with. Because you've read this book, is there any one thing that you have changed in your perception of horses or other animals?
Before I read this book, I thought that many people used to say that stay back, the animal will kick, the horse will kick, it will throw you off and stuff like that. And I was sometimes startled when I was around horses. But now, after I've read this book, I've honestly changed, and I think that the horses will not harm me, as they know by who is harming them and who is come to just take care of them and pet them.
After reading this book, I understood that it is very difficult for caring for horses. They can be left in the wild and they can fend for themselves, and we can fend for ourselves.
But when you bring that horse back inside your house, you've got to take a lot of effort to care for that horse if you want it to do what you want. Right?
Yes.
So, ma'am, before I read this book, I thought that the horses are strong, and if we put in how much ever weight we want on him, it will take us. But then after reading this book, I realized that it is not so, and they also get tired. While we are taking them in the steep hills, we should get down to reduce the burden on them and take them easily.
Man, before I read this book, I thought horses should wear blinders. Because what if they turn back or they get distracted? They might trip, and that will also hurt themselves and the rider. But then I discovered horses can sometimes get annoyed by wearing blinders.
That is true. Imagine wearing a blinder, on your own face when you're walking. If when you're a child, you can easily get distracted. So imagine your mother saying, "Prakriti, here, wear this blinder and walk." Would you like that?
No.
No, it would have annoyed us to no end, right? Yeah, a horse is no different. Yes, Pravit.
I thought that taking care of a horse was a piece of cake, and we did not need to put again and again watch over the horse. I thought we just need to care, we care for birds. We just have to put their food and then they will do what they want. Then I understood that the horses
Like they need a lot of care, or else they will get bad tempered and become slow and feeble.
Very true. Horses are no different from, little children or even the dogs that we have as pets.
Before I read the book, I used to think that the reins of the horse do not hurt it. But after I read the book, I realized that if you tug too hard on the rein, then it can hurt the horse inside the mouth, and that causes bleeding.
Yeah, the other end of the rein is actually tucked a little bit inside that horse's mouth. I
Yeah,
can't imagine the pain that horse will
and
go
it's
through.
even sharp, that bit.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, Rishi, tell us.
Before reading the book, I thought that horses only need saddles, reins, and horseshoes. But after reading this book, I realized that I was wrong. Horses need a lot of more equipment. They need cruppers, blinders.
I think the real question, Rishi, is do they need these or do humans forcefully fit them on the horses because they think it's important?
They need some, but I think they don't need the check rein.
Check
But
rein, yes.
Yes, please.
Check
but
rein,
horses do need blinders in races.
they
They
do
should not
need.
get distracted.
Okay,
Yes,
so
they should not get distracted.
in a race, you're okay with the horse having?
Yes, but outside the races, no.
No.
I wouldn't like a horse wearing blinders.
Yeah. Because you brought the point of check reins, I wanted to ask all of you, do you want to describe what a check rein is?
Check rein is like an additional rein attached like behind their head to make them to make their heads held up high.
Yeah. So some of those proud people in that era thought that when they ride that horse, its head should never be lowered. Throughout it should hold its head high up. Just imagine you had to hold your head high up like this for some 40 minutes,
Just
1 hour,
for
2 hours.
hours.
Could be for hours, right? They felt that was the way that they could show off that they had a great horse. What would happen to that horse if it held its neck up like that all the time?
It will start paining near the neck.
Yeah, to put it mildly, it'll start paining near the neck. Rusheel, you were saying something?
And they are doing that just for fashion.
Just for fashion. Very correct. Yeah. After reading The Black Beauty, a lot of people stopped using the check rein. It was one of the greatest accomplishments of Anna Sewell. I don't know if she lived to see it. She died a few months after the book was published, but a lot of people stopped using check rein. In fact, there was also a legal change. By law, it was forbidden that anybody use a check rein on their horse. The law came a little later, but the fashion change came a lot earlier.
I feel proud that that fashion is finally come to an end.
Yeah.
So I agree.
That is the power of a well written book by an author. So, authors are not just writing books to entertain children, they're also writing books to bring about a real change in the society that they live in. So, that was one of Anna Sewell's greatest accomplishment. Like I said earlier, she died just a few months after she published the book. So, how many stars out of 5 stars would you all give this book, Black Beauty? Just raise your hands so I can see. I see 5 from all of you. Oh, great. So Advik alone gives it 4 stars. Nayra is also giving 4 stars. Everybody else is, Pravit.
4.5.
Sorry?
4.5. 4.5.
Okay,
The
Nayra's
same.
4.5. Pravit,
4.5, miss.
4.7.
so let's hear from Advik, Pravit and Nayra why it's a little less than 5.
It is a very nice story, but still, I think I see some mistakes.
Mistakes. Oh, I wonder what they are.
Like murders and the things that I don't like.
Oh, because there are a few murders in the book, you're not very comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a very depressing book.
Oh, that's why it's 4
Especially
points.
about Ginger, like her whole life changed. First she was badly treated, and then she became good, and then a big turn took over when Mrs. Gordon became ill, and so everybody lost their precious home. Many horses.
But the extra 7, I would rate it 4 normally, but the extra 7 is for the stories that everyone narrated. The stories about Jerry and Ginger and all.
I think it is a little illegal for children to read chapters like Rubin Smith and how it ended. I feel that was a bit uncomfortable.
Yes, miss.
You were uncomfortable reading about the rider and Reuben Smith and how he
Yes,
ill-treated
miss.
that horse.
Yeah.
So you felt maybe it's not perfectly okay for all children to read.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you. Rusheel, you wanted to say something.
Ma'am, I will give it 4.5.
Oh, you've changed your mind. Okay, why?
Ma'am, I will give it 4.5 as the vocabulary was a little tough to understand.
I agree. It's not as easy as reading Harry Potter, which uses a lot of words that you and I use in today's parlance. This book, since it was written 150 years ago, it's a little different. Correct. The words are very unusual. We don't use those words in English like.
It is different from the storybooks which are published which are popular right now. Like Harry Potter, then the books of Sudhamurti, and many more.
That's why Secret 7.
Even Secret 7. Okay. But that said, would you still think everybody should read the book at least once in their lifetime if they are not
Yes,
children
miss.
even?
Yes, miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Everybody should? Okay. What is the age you recommend then? Because you all have given such insights about certain parts of the book that you found uncomfortable, language, etc. At what age do you recommend people read this book?
I think 9 and above, because the violence might be disturbing for children below 9, and especially the elders should read this book who have a horse now.
Okay, people who own horses should definitely read the book. Okay, otherwise
Yes.
9 plus is okay.
I think that 10 plus or 11 plus, because there are many murders in this book, and it's very depressing about Ginger's story, especially that's why. I recommend the age group for 6 and above, because some of the words were not understandable. You have to search in Google with the help of their parents. And I would also recommend that this book had some illustrations so that it become more interesting.
Okay, so you think an illustrated version of Black Beauty would make it easy for even a 6-year-old to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So that they can imagine what happened with all of them, all the characters. Miss, I had one book of Black Beauty. It was like around 30 pages small. It was actually about 15 pages because one page had pictures.
So Black Beauty has been published in many different versions. So there's Black Beauty written for a 4-5-year-old, and there's the Black Beauty written for some 8-10-year-old. As far as I recall, the Black Beauty I recommended for all of you to read is the unabridged version, the original version that Anna Sewell wrote.
And I think this book should be read by 8 and above. This is an autobiography. According to me, kids under 8 might not be able to understand what an autobiography exactly is.
I recommend 11 and above because there are some words that we don't usually use nowadays. So the children below 10 and 11 may not understand the meaning of those phrases and words.
Got it.
I think I recommend this for like 10 and above, because then, as I said, that some parts have murders and use of alcohol and stuff. So I guess children should know about that after 10.
Okay, not before 10.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very fair point to make. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to tell the author Anna Sewell if you did meet her, if she were magically alive today?
Miss, I would first congratulate her because after reading this book, many people stopped using check-ins, as you said before.
Oh, for that
And
reason,
I
wonderful.
think she would be very happy.
I would first thank her for writing such a good story, and because it inspires people to not harm animals. As you earlier said, the story also stopped most of the people using check-ins.
I would tell her that you have done a very great job and you are a world superstar for this book called Black Beauty. And I would give her a hug.
And I would tell her I really, really liked the book.
I don't think any author wants anything more than that. Sorry, Prakriti had some fun fact.
Black Beauty's full name isn't just Black Beauty, it's Black Beauty, his grooms and companions, an autobiography of an horse.
That was the full name of the book. Oh, it's interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed reviewing the book along with all of you. It almost felt like, I was going back and reading the book alongside you, along with all of you and reliving some of the memories, some of the chapters in the book. On that note, here's some information to all of our listeners on how we go about producing each one of our episodes. So, the first step is always we brainstorm and come up with a list of topics that we think are positive, meaningful, and engaging to young children and for whole families to sit down together and listen to. And the next step is, of course, the recording process where we invite a child or more than one child in each of our episodes. And we are very conscious that the children should be allowed to express their ideas freely without the fear of being judged, because we don't believe that there are right and wrong answers to most questions. And then we edit them in the back end. We remove unwanted pauses or other statements, and we insert all the fun sound effects that kids love so much. Each one of these take time, effort, and money. So if you've enjoyed listening to our episodes and would like to support Team What's New Today, you can support us by donating any sum of your choice. Link to supporting us is in the show notes below. We'll be back soon with our next episode. Until then, it's goodbye from me, Sangeeta.